Value is huge. A lot of people don't realize value. And what I mean value is value in yourself, value in what you're learning, value in what you're doing. And there's value good and there's value bad. And the good value is great and all that, but the bad value, there's still value in that because you're learning lessons. And you're
Absolutely.
learning to maybe do some things different, maybe change some ways, maybe look at some things in a different way. Whereas value is huge, and I just don't really think a lot of people, until I experienced choices, I didn't really understand why anybody meant by value other than a dollar sign on a price tag. And
Absolutely. Truth.
the value is just tremendous. And what you said about our age generation, our parents were not very communicatable is what I guess the right word, about feelings and emotions. And especially the older generation, our parents' age, they didn't talk about things. Nobody discussed things. And you went to work, you did what you did every day, you come home, you ate, you did your chores, you went to bed. And there was not much discussion other than about what you talked about when you were eating dinner at the table. And I know my dad wasn't very vulnerable in feelings. And a lot of dads are like that. My mom didn't say a whole lot. She was quiet. She loved us. She took care of us. She made sure we were fed, and we had clean clothes the next day, and we got our stuff done, and our butts were in bed to be able to get up the next day for school. My dad, I could tell you how many times on one hand, won't fill up how many times he told me he loved me, but with his actions, I knew he did.
Right.
I felt it, and that's just the way the older generation was. So that's a lot of why we all struggle, or we struggle now, is finding a way to make ourselves vulnerable and open up, not only to others, to ourselves. And I think one of my biggest learning lessons, and this was a big one for me at Choices, was learning self-relationship. I had the understanding that if I didn't do things for everybody else and do stuff for other people all the time, that I was selfish. Well, that's true. But in theory, if you don't take care of yourself, number one, give yourself medicine, you can't take care of nobody else.
Truth.
And that was a huge one for me. And I'm real big on that. And learning to open up as a man, as a guy, as a dad, that's been a hard one for me too as well. Being able to be vulnerable and put my feelings and emotions out there, because it seems like whenever I do, they get smashed and stepped on. And it's just the fear and the risk of I guess getting your feelings hurt when you finally do. I know some women. They can put their feelings out there, or they complain that men don't put their feelings out there, and I just don't truly realize men are just wired like that. Versus when you figure out and realize it's safe and it's okay to put your feelings out there, and it's okay to feel like that, you have a right to put your feelings and emotions there as well. And it's a lot. And as you said earlier, at your age, my age, our age, we're pretty close together, is if I could have known all of this stuff back in my early days, oh gosh, maybe things would
Hindsight,
have
right?
been a little bit easier, not so hard.
Absolutely. Well, and that's why we have the opportunity to do this, like to share our stories. I mean, a lot of people talk about social media and the bad side of it, but there's good and bad in everything. And everything can be used good and bad, and social media gives everybody an opportunity to share their story and to help and encourage others through it. And you were talking about putting your emotions out there. I think the biggest fear in that is fear, number one, but the shame and guilt that if you held it in forever, that you've lived with, and thinking that anybody's going to love you through it is huge. That fear is can be overwhelming, and it was for me. I think we discussed this before, but I had an eating disorder from the time I was 15 until I was 48. Started counseling. So you're hiding, and in my mind, and that's addiction. Whether addiction is, people don't address it, but it's food. Everybody addresses the drugs and alcohol. I mean, that's big. Everybody can recognize and point that out. But you got shopping, spending, food, so many things that people lean into that consume their life. And so discussing and getting things out really was a game changer for me. And I get to help others all the time with the experiences that I went through. And I, again, blessed to be on social media sharing this story right now. So
You mentioned social media about stuff that out there, and I'm not trying to bring politics in this, but there was an article the other day, and it was blaring about how many negative interactions was about the president. And it was mind-boggling how much negativity was about one man all day long, all on social media across the board. It was asinine just to think. All of social media, all the news, all the algorithms putting this much hate down there, out there all day long about one person. If we could do this all day long, positive stuff, information stuff, stuff from people, older people our age, people who's been through things and been able to relay and give their opinions and their stories and give some people insight of what they're going through. And plus all the positive that is available to put out there. It just blows my mind how much all day long on everything, it's all negativity. And just within this last 2 weeks with Texas and our storms, it's like you can't even open a freaking social media reel or something without the ugliness about how come it happened. And yet people forget that God is in control.
absolutely.
Sooner or later, you're fixing to find out, and good or bad. And he's given us all warning lessons. And here recently, we've got some more, and they're not good.
I would love to address what you said about social media, and this is just my experience, so not putting it out there for anybody else. But you mentioned choices, and I know you've been through choices, and a huge believer, and it sounds like an awesome program. But I have had my social media, I guess, been on the platforms for 7-8 years now, and you choose to look at that negative. It comes across my feed. I don't engage with it. And so when you look at my social media, you're not going to see that. It doesn't pop up on mine. I use, again, everything can be used for good and bad. I put out positive, and fortunately I'm fed positive, and I don't engage with the other. And I'm not being naive and digging my head in the sand, but it's a choice. It's a choice to get up and see light or darkness. And I've lived in darkness, been there, and I'm not ever going to live in fear again and in darkness. I choose to live in the light. It's what Scripture says you're supposed to do. And
Yep.
I'm making it sound super simple. Again,
But
sometimes
it's not that
sometimes we
hard.
can sit down and I can go through the darkness with you because it's there. But at some point, you make a choice. You make a choice to live in the light or in the darkness. And again, been in the darkness, I'll choose light every day.
Yep. As a society, it seems like we are just living in darkness. It's sad to say, and I don't want to speak negative about it, and I don't want to bring the ugliness out. But I mean, you wake up every day and you look at it's, and I do admire looking at your page, because every day, when there's something that comes across, I do stop and listen, and I enjoy it, and I get fed off of that. And the other stuff, yeah, you see it, and I just scrolling through, or I delete.
Yeah.
And if it's somebody I know that's putting crap out there, don't care to listen, see, or whatever. I just unfriend them and I'll block it.
Yeah.
I don't even want to see it.
Right. Well, it's for sure out there, and it is sad how our society wants to know all the details of all the bad. You're talking about the floods. It's who wants to know all the personal little individual details of the trauma and the hardships. And I mean, it for sure people need to be heard, and they want people to understand, but you can again bury yourself in darkness and go down those roads to know every little detail. I felt so bad for the parents that had children that were in the camps. They haven't found their kids yet, and they're inundated with all of this information showing the cabin and all the how do you, they haven't found your child yet, and everybody's talking and showing all the horror of all of it. And for sure we need to be aware, but what about respect for those families and the children that were lost, and serving them instead of seeking out every little detail of the bad? Just,
you want to measure respect as a society, look at social media and look at what's been on the last 2 weeks.
yeah.
Just shows you the toilet we're in.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And, we see that on social media, but we also have everyday lives that we live. And, people are watching us. Our kids are watching us. We have a choice to be good role models and good parents and good stewards of society, and try to live right and do right. Yes, Jesus has forgiven us. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we're forgiven. Just because we make a mistake doesn't mean you get to go out there and continue making that same mistake over and over. It doesn't mean you have to continue having an affair with that married guy with 4 kids or that married woman with 4 kids. You don't have to keep doing that. That's all choices. And our society has gone to the end of the sewer so stinking bad that it's the positives out there is a lot less than the negative, and that's a sad thing to say.
I feel a lot of that is also rooted in accountability. Now, people, you can blame everybody for everything. We can all sit and blame, but own it. Own your part. Be accountable and confess. I mean, the Bible talks about that. Confessing your sins to others, that allows that to be out in the light. That allows for growth. And you can't have a foundation. You've got to have a foundation of truth and surround yourself with people that hold you accountable. And you need friends that say, hey, this isn't looking good. Like, what's going on with you?
Yep.
One of the things I tell clients and my kids and anybody that crosses my path, I went through probably a 14-year time span where doctors were giving me medication after medication until, they basically had me bedridden on medication. And the fact that people just sat and watched it happen and nobody said, hey, you're not acting right. Like something's not right. If you start taking a medication, have some people around you to go, hey, you're looking a little off or something. Surround yourself with those friends. That's true friendship.
There's zero accountability from friends and also families. If your children are continuing to make mistake after mistake and bad choice after bad choice, you don't enable them and you don't just wash it under the bridge and bail them out. You hold them accountable. And if you teach them that it's okay to keep making the same mistake over and over and over, and teaching them and enabling them, next thing you know, they're 40 plus years old and they're still doing the same thing they were in high school when they were young kids. And now all of a sudden they're having kids and then they're still doing those same things in front of their kids. It's like the cycle never stops. The process never stops. And yes, I tell my friends, my close friends, all the time, if I'm doing something that's out of line, please come tell me. If I said something I shouldn't say, check me.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
if I did something I shouldn't have done that day, you need to tell me. And I generally pretty much go throughout the day and I can tell, you have that little voice inside from, the Holy Spirit saying, nah, and I just think a lot of people just don't have that anymore because why are they just not holding themselves accountable?
Well, everybody wants to be you to be in that pit with them. They do. And again, sounding like I've got it all figured out. That's because I've been down the path that I didn't. Yeah, you've got to surround yourself with people that hold you accountable. And that it sounds like I don't have compassion. And please don't mistake that. You've got to have compassion. Hug that person. Say you love them. You're going to walk through it with them. Instead of judging them and talking behind their back, give them a hand. Help them up instead of pushing them down. Got to surround yourself with. I'm very fortunate at Premier. I truly believe God put me there. That's a Christian business, and ever since I walked through the door, that's been home. The staff there and the people, man, truly family, and they've walked through some huge things with me. So, very blessed.
That's awesome to have a core team around you that supports you, that keeps you grounded, and it keeps you on the right path and keeps you on the direction you're wanting to go.
Yeah,
very huge.
And church. A lot of people are negative on church, and there's no perfect church. Absolutely no perfect church. But you've got to have a community. You've got to have a community and a support system, and somebody that you can go to and talk about stresses and problems that people will love you through it. And so I encourage anybody, surround yourself in a community that's helping you up, not pushing you down.
Helping support you, but not totally enabling you.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you about church. I had a situation happen several years back, and ever since then, I've just been really turned off on church. And it's just the people that I experienced through a situation that I believe felt they were Christians and then turn around and act the way they did and treat me the way they did and turn their back on the situation. And I don't want to put that out there today, but I think we're all the church. And as it says in the Bible, just because we don't go to church on Sunday doesn't mean we don't have church every day. Right. And you're right. The church is all of us. And we support and we love and we lift one another up, but also we check one another. You call that person out who did something they shouldn't be done. You call that person out and say, look here, this is not, there's ways to do it and still lift them people up. In Choices, we have a saying that we love them where they're at. And sometimes you have to love people where they're at and pray for them and let God sink in, let the Holy Spirit work, and hopefully they turn themselves around and they do improve as a better person.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast story the other night with Pastor Greg Laurie on it, and driving, it really hit me hard. It was talking about, are you walking with God or are you walking against God? And he basically said that same thing. Are you living with him, for him every day? Or are you living out there for everybody to see? And he basically talked, if you can go make that poor choice, that good choice, and do it in front of God every day, then again, you can go turn around and you can make that poor choice and say you're still walking with God. You're not walking with God. So if you continue to make those poor choices different from your good choices, you're not walking with God. And if you got young kids, your children are seeing that, your friends are seeing that, and we teach our younger generation, who are leaders, who are our future, that it's okay to make these same mistakes and same bad choices. And yet here we are in a sewer as a society.
I would, what you're saying is so true. I know for me, and I tell people this all the time, number one, I had to humble myself, because Americans were raised, you can be all you want to be whoever you want to be, and humbling myself to my sin, huge. But read your Bible, people. It's, I remember saying, I wish there was a book.
It's there.
I wish somebody tell me the book. Read Proverbs. Read Proverbs. It is absolutely, when I read through the Old Testament, I was horrified that was in the Bible.
It's a good thing we don't live in the Old Testament days.
I know, we
because,
think it's bad.
Good Lord.
Right, but it is in there. But it all ties together. It all ties together, and God's grace, mercy, absolutely. But
humility.
Yes, humble
Empathy.
yourself.
Yes.
Well, and I don't feel like I touched on fitness, like movement, as far as how that is healing to the brain and the body. People just do not comprehend strength training, movement, mobility. It changes people's lives, and just getting out and walking, even just getting out, movement, plasticity in the brain, and how it restructures the brain and the body, and it's huge. And to have seniors come in that are 70, 80 years old, and nobody's encouraged them to move, because we're coming from a sick care system, not a healthcare system, that had everybody terrified to move and on medications. And I take medications, so I don't mean to dog medications, but if you're not moving, you're not growing, you're not getting stronger. You're just, like I said, you got to move to grow, and so that's huge.
Well, getting moving and your cells moving and oxygen into your body, you have to move. You can't lay there in a couch and chair every day and not exercise. You can't lay there in bed and expect to get well.
Right.
Right. One thing that really taught me big was on show cattle about movement, and then what restricts them, and also how movement tied to their growth gain and their overall well-being. And whenever we got deeper in and more intense into showing cattle, of having chiropractors come out, and then other things done, and getting in where the restriction, and also the exercise, walking enough every day. It's hard. You're tired, you're wore out, you've been at school all day, or this and that, and the last thing you do is walk steers for 2 or 3 hours. And but it was important. And the important part was they had to have it. They had to have movement. Their bodies can process food, water, hay, all that kind of stuff. But without movement and movement, it's just like you and I, as you said. If we don't get up and exercise and walk and take care of ourselves, you can eat right, you can do everything else right, you can take vitamins. But if you don't get up, move, and exercise, you are what you are.
When you said walking show steers, that made me think back to every day, get off the bus. I had 4 show steers. They had to walk at least a mile a day, and that's 4 miles right there, right off the bat.
That's good.
I did learn to walk 2 of them at a time. That was good. But actually, we did figure out how to tie them to the truck after a while. I figured it out. But
we cheated. I built the trailer, and we started.
There you go. There you go.
Pulling up down the road.
Something interesting, I find that people with animals, how they're so selective with what they feed their animals, and they make sure they've had their exercise, the right food, and yet we don't do that with our own bodies.
Exactly.
How crazy is that?
Exactly. We do that for them, for all the money we spend on them, as what I tell my kids. You know how much, you don't realize how much, well, what's another this, what's another that. But the amount of money and attention to detail we spend on our animals and our pets,
Pets, it's
and yet
crazy.
people neglect ourselves.
I've got so many clients with, well, and myself included, got 2 little dogs that gonna feed them the right thing, the right make sure that their life is perfect, and then we put crap in our bodies. Crazy.
And with negligence of not only physically with our bodies, but mental health.
Absolutely.
I don't think people really take mental health serious.
Agree.
You can, as I say, you can go to the hospital with a broken arm, or you can go with take a Tylenol for a headache or whatever. But if you don't take care of yourself and check yourself mentally and keep yourself mentally going, the rest of it's going to break down too, and vice versa. They all go together.
Mental health is, had that been addressed instead of them giving me meds, had they looked for the root of the problem instead of band-aiding the problem, I look back at it, just makes me so almost angry, frustrated, all of it. They destroyed my life. The medical industry, destroyed my life because they didn't initially look for the root of the problem. They just gave you something to subdue that, and again, addiction. That leads to addiction because you're not addressing the root, and so you get addicted to all the other fill-ins.
You touched on a subject there about not looking at the root problem. My mom's been going through some health issues, and also Shauna that works for me in the office. Their issues have been very serious, but each certain doctor looks at a different part, but there's not really one that looks at everything in general. And my mom, it took her 16, 18 months before they finally found the exact problem, the issue causing her problem. In Shauna, same thing. She just found out there's 3 different things crossing back and forth to interact. It's just there's not one medical doctor that takes care of one specific thing.
You have to be your own advocate, and that's unfortunate, I guess. That's the case. But hey, we've got resources now. We've got AI now. Be your own advocate. Research and look for.
ChatGPT is great.
Ask it questions, and that doesn't mean you have to believe it all. Follow through, look it up.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's mind-boggling to me that I have clients that come with med list, sometimes 3 of the same meds from different doctors, and nobody's even caught it. And it's very interesting, again, that we have a sick care system. I know they're trying to change that, and I'm super grateful and excited to hear about it. But be your own advocate. Be your own advocate. And for me, I know I told you I went through all of the years with all the seizures, and in about an 8-year time span, I had over 200 grand mal seizures, and that was all mental health. And yet they were treating it with medicine as it was looking for a medical condition, when if they would have addressed the mental health, I wouldn't have gone through that. My kids wouldn't have gone through that. But fortunately, my kids get to look back at somebody that looked to the root and finally found it. But it's a hard road. Yeah.
Yep.
But this was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so great.
Well, Shannon, it was great having you on today. As soon as it started, we got this going. I thought there was a target list of about 15 people, and you were one of them. I thought, I can't wait to see if she wants to participate.
Oh, I love it. And like I said, sometime I can come back and we can go through the darkness, and
we'll do it again.
That'll take a while. We'll be here.
I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.